Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 373. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensational sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking Suicide Squad number 25, Aquaman number 25, Superman number 25, and Teen Titans number 25. We have some very interesting commentary to talk about, especially about those last two books we were mentioning in the first segment of the show. We also shout out a Kickstarter from a longtime friend of the show for a book called Ashes. So we'll be talking about that in the break in between those. And we have your listener voicemails, and we have a number of them. So we are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, Jim, they're doing another one of those. They've been doing the Vertigo bundles for the new titles. And the books that they have on this one with the regular covers regularly come to $26.92. They're 50% off, only $13.46. It includes the Royals Masters of War number 1, the Sandman Overture number 2, Dead Boy Detectives number 3, Coffin Hill 5, Hinterkind 5, Astro City number 9, Trillium number 7, The Unwritten Volume 2, Apocalypse number 2. So it's quite a lineup of titles that are only $13.46. This is great if you, like me, I love Vertigo as a line. It's always interesting for me when they're doing new Vertigo books to try them out and to see how I feel about them. I have a budget just like everybody else does, and these bundles are a great way to try those out because you need a couple of months, especially with the fact that you're doing pre-ordering, to really see if these are the titles for you and kind of pare them down afterwards if you need to. So that's a way to do it, and I wanted to shout that out, those bundles. Do you find, Jim, that those bundles help you make a decision to say, hey, you know what, this is a good way for me to try books? Do you use any of the bundles from DCB Service when they come out?
Yeah, I've used them a couple of times, especially when they did the relaunch of all when they did the new Vertigo titles and all that. I did the number 1 bundle just so I can get a read through, see what we have here, and try to figure out what's going to happen.
Do you think does that help you make a decision to try titles that maybe you wouldn't have tried before?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, solid. You one, the discount, but two, it's when I'm sitting there after I've gone through my orders, I'm like, okay, how much do I got left in my budget? Oh, I do have open for that, or I'll look for something like it'll only put me a little bit over budget, so let's go with that. So when it's that bang for your buck, so when you have that one click gives me these 4 or 5 titles, that kind of it does kind of lead me to do a little bit more buying than what I technically should. But
the DC New 52 Villains Omnibus hardcover is available at InStockTrades.com, Jim. This is a $150 book, 50% off, only $75. Now, when I say only $75, this is almost 1,200 pages long. It's 1,184 pages. It collects the entire Villains month. So, I mean, it's just a great deal if you didn't get that, or if you loved that month, because that's the great thing about those issues. They were all contained. This is a great omnibus to throw on your shelf and be able to read over and over again. So that's over at InStockTrades.com. And orders of $50 or more give you free shipping, so you get free shipping on that book. So it's something to definitely think about over at InStockTrades.com. I want to thank DCBService.com for being a terrific pre-order source, and InStockTrades.com for supporting our show. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
What was that?
Well, we got the right stuff.
Oh, there you go. Let's just talk some comics.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. Here, ready to move up.
Jim, actually, before we start this discussion, I kind of want to put a little disclaimer that we're going to be talking about Superman number 25 and Teen Titans number 25 kind of at the same time. Because I think there's certain parts of this discussion that are just going to naturally kind of bleed into each other.
Yeah.
So I want to throw that little disclaimer out there. But for Superman, the creative team is Scott Lobdell, pencils by Kenneth Rocafort, color by Blonde, letters by Rob Lay, cover by Kenneth Rocafort, assistant editor is Anthony Marquis, group editor is Eddie Berganza, Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, Superboy created by Jerry Siegel, Supergirl based on characters created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And I'm just going to go right into it. Superboy. Do you think he's dead?
Yes, actually. And it's funny because I don't want to say that I like the idea. I understand kind of why they did it, but I think he's dead. And I think they're making room for a different Superboy. And they're changing, they're going with the Superboy who's currently in Teen Titans. And I think they're going to go with that Superboy as the Superboy of the universe. I think...
Until Con-El comes back and beats him up.
Right. But how can he come back? He is dead.
Where's the body?
Well, the body was destroyed with Krypton.
How do you know?
Because you get that final panel of him.
All we get is this disappearing S. I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced.
Now, let me say, I don't want him to be dead because I really dig this Connor. Well, this Khan. I like Con-El. He reminded me of the Connor that I absolutely loved in the previous 52 universe. Mm-hmm. This is a character who was developing as a hero. He was learning, and you see the growth of the person of the hero. You see all these great stuff going on. And then when they killed him off, I was like, what? He gets a hero's death. He saves a city. He saves multiple people, but he is still dead.
He's done that before in the previous universe. There's a history with that character.
Well, yeah, there is the history, and they did, they to bring that Connor back, they did a lot of future and past jumping. So there possibly could definitely be a way to bring him back because of everything being in flux with the time universe and whatnot, and there definitely could be a way to bring him back with very little work, I think. But it's like in my head, I'm reading it as it actually occurred, and that they made room for the other. If we get Khan back, it's going to be a while, I think.
There's two important comic book things that are missing from this. It doesn't have the hug or the carry. Now, let me explain the hug. The hug could be either the hug or the clutch. That's where somebody's holding or clutching the dead body and crying over it.
Okay.
Or the carry. In comics, if you don't get those things, there's an open doorway to explain where he was transported to. I'm not convinced he wasn't transported somewhere.
Yeah,
now, let me clarify this. I'm also saying that I do believe there's a possibility the character is dead. So I'm not saying that I'm 100% convinced, hey, this kid's alive and kicking. I'm not saying that. But there's a strong part of me that thinks that we did not, in fact, see the last of him in that sequence.
And I'll agree with you. There's a definite strong possibility of it. Because you look at the final panel, and this is a great ending, too. My name is Superboy. I'm not a living weapon. I'm just a kid who tried. And for me, that was a really cool moment because he's acknowledging now that he is a kid. He is a real boy, if you will. If we'll take the line from Pinocchio.
I was just thinking that.
He's come this far away where he gets these emotions, where he's now understanding who it is, and it's kind of funny. He gets some comedic moments, at the end of his life, and he gets this growth, and it's just the S slowly dissipates. So there is no body now with his powers. With the way he really kicked up the tactile telekinetics, when he faced the other Superboy, when he faced the evil version or John or the original, I don't know which. Yeah, I guess he faced the original that he's a clone off of. So when he faced that Superboy, he really learned how powerful his powers are and what another level. So he could have very easily broken down his energy structure and may be able to do a reforming somewhere else. Kind of like how Captain Captain Atom, and Dr. Manhattan could do, in Watchmen. So we could get an energy breakdown reassembly. We could get he's connected to Argo somehow because his energies was there.
Jump to the last page.
Okay.
But as they leave, something unexpected happens. For just an instant, Krypton returns. And for an instant, Kal-El and Kara are no longer orphans in the Omniverse. An instant, or something more. I'm not convinced he's not affected by that too.
Yeah, to be honest, that could be their way of telling it back. I took that as being just that, what Clark wanted to do the whole time, where he just keeps Krypton locked in a single moment in time, and that's how he captures and stops Kal-El, is with that freezing of time. That's how I took that to be. But that could be the gateway for Khan to get back. That could be a gateway for Krypton to return someday, or Kal-El to return, or any possible combinations could come from that one instant, that one moment.
See, and I guess part of me is really thinking strongly that we're building towards an eventual Superboy versus Superboy confrontation. Now let me flip to the other side of it. If they're not going to do that, and we're left with evil Superboy as our Superboy, I'm cool with that too, because I think that's insanely cool.
Oh yeah, and that's why I didn't want to sound like I was knocking the idea. I didn't like it, because I like Khan.
I do too.
But it is a good story, and there's a lot of cool possibilities, and they could once again have that evil Superboy turn good. There could be something else that happens. It may be the circumstances that made him evil, not him. He's not innate naturally evil. That we're talking, that Superboy is the son of Superman and Lois Lane. So technically, he doesn't exist yet. So we could deal. There's a lot of paradoxes that he's coming back in time before his parents are even together. So that's a huge moment as well that could come out of this. Who knows where that Superboy is going to happen, and maybe that creation happens, which creates another Khan, which creates another backdrop. So there's multiple ways this thing can play out that we could get a good Superboy. Whether it's the current quote unquote evil Superboy turning good, it's the return of Khan, or something completely different.
See, one of the things I really enjoy about this particular storyline is it feels very classic Superman to me. And let me clarify that. To me, classic Superman, the Superman stories I always enjoyed growing up, were the ones that were, really fantastic, where, Superman could go anywhere. He could do anything. He could be a part of any kind of amazing story. And this kind of stuff with time travel and seeing his father, it takes me back to the days of Superman encountering Superboy, which was really himself, but younger, and that they would, occasionally have an adventure together or something like that. Those kind of things were things that I loved about DC, being able to play with multiple worlds and time travel and cosmic things that the Flash had, his treadmill and all kinds of stuff. I think those are important features, but you want to bring those into the modern day world, into storylines that make sense today. They feel like they're a modern story told today without throwing out the tools. And I think this encountering a version of his father who is one of the many time streams, from one of the many time streams that have been presented here, a version of his father came back and, I lost everybody. And to see you again, son, just makes, but this isn't really his dad. It's a version of his dad. It's not the one that really sent him off in the way that he did. So it's interesting to see these different variations. It's what's cool about Elseworlds and all those kind of stories, because you're dealing with a character like Kal-El who has created multiple rips in time. Krypton has gone through multiple rips in time. Different events have happened along the way where he has constructed, deconstructed, and restructured Krypton so many times to try and achieve the Krypton that he was looking for, that he's created all of these different alternate timelines, which set up a situation where you got to ask yourself, this is the planet you were born in. I mean, and for him, He was adopted on Earth. His parents were the parents that he knew. Found out at a certain point in time, like I relate a lot to this story, found out at a certain point in time, that he was adopted and all that, probably very early on. But then was very happy being one of the Kents. They're dead. So he doesn't have any parents right now. And he's able to encounter his birth parents and that culture and learn about it. And there's an opportunity to save that culture so it will be here. How do you then turn around and be a part of destroying it? It's a tough call. I love that part of this story, that he understands the why, he sees the responsibility of it, but he also is faced with the conflict of the other end of the coin. That's something to me that when you play around with a story like this, and they do so much, it's a 4-parter, but it really is much richer than that because of all the build to this storyline. That's what I really loved about it. I thought it flowed really nice and touched on some things that would really be the case for Superman, for Kara, and for our Superboy. They're all facing different elements of their strengths and their weaknesses and having to face and overcome them in a way that I found this storyline took characters that I've really been enjoying since the start of the New 52 and connected me with them even more. Superman in particular has been the one that recently has really stepped up and become a character I've enjoyed following, and this story really cemented that as being he's now a must-read character for me.
Oh God, yeah. And it's one of the things with this story that I thought was kind of cool was the separation and the difference between Kal-El and Superman. Mm-hmm. Kal-El was the obedient son, and who flat out told Jor-El, hey, you're my dad, I'm with you, I got your back. But you get that Superman moment where he's like, I'm not going to destroy this creature. I'm not going to destroy him. I'm not going to save the universe by killing. And that is the Superman code. The Kryptonian logic, and actually pretty much anybody else's logic, would justify saying, yes, kill Kal-El, save the universe, it's okay. But for Superman, there's always another way. And I love just seeing that, because when I first saw him, because, Jor-El had the device there, he was slowly killing Kal-El, and Clark's like, no, can't let you do it, and blasts him, blasts the controller with the heat vision. I gotta admit, I screamed, what are you doing? As I'm reading this, going, dude, mistake, But, of course, it's Superman, he figures out a way. And I like the fact that he didn't have this plan going into when he fired. He fired, and then as he's going, he's figuring out, okay, this is what I have to do. This is how I can do it. I just hope it works. And there's that, that moment. Those, for me, are the Superman moments where it's not this, complex plan like how you get Batman, who's the great strategist, with, he's planned for this all along, and he did some training technique, years ago just in case this would happen. No, this is Superman. He's moving, he's shaking, he's on his feet. It's, improvise, adapt, overcome, but at a level that no mere mortal could actually do. I love seeing those stories.
I do too. That's the kind of stuff that I think it's really important. I love Superman stories that are grounded very deeply and richly in reality. I'm into all that. Seeing him encounter our Earth, and sometimes the overwhelming odds of the amount of atrocities that he has to try to fight, and he can't save everybody. You just can't. Even Superman can't save everybody. I like that stuff. But when you see him against these just larger-than-life characters that that only Superman can face, and even when Superman can face them, like, he couldn't do this one alone. He really needed Team Superman to be a part of this. That makes the story, just feel bigger to me. And I like this kind of stuff where I felt like all the way through it, I was like, wow. It's a very heady story. I don't know if you felt like we got Jor-El saying, I'm from an alternate Earth where, and I was sitting there like, well, like, how do you, at what point in time in your life, and this is only a scientist that can do this, at what point in time in your life do you sit there and go, I'm from an alternate reality? I'm not the real me. And I guess it would come from after a lifetime of hard labor. This can't be the real world. Right. But I like that because I don't know that other people in his timeline would have necessarily agreed with that alternate label because it's your life.
Oh God, yeah. You accept where you're at and what you're doing, And I love the fact that he was able to piece everything together without help from the Oracle. And even, Clark calls him on it, saying, "You figured this out on your own without the Oracle?" And he's like, "Hey, all the evidence was there for the, all the evidence was there. All the evidence was present." And that again shows Jor-El as, the super brainiac that he is. So it's some really cool moments where we have this alternate Earth, this alternate Krypton Jor-El, but he still is Jor-El. He still is super smart. He still can figure out all the pieces, but not only figure out all the pieces, he can figure out how to protect, and prevent them from occurring. So it was moments of, oh, that's cool, that's neat. And I gotta admit, this book was at least a 4 read through before I really got a good solid grasp of it. Because when you're dealing with the time and when you're dealing with the jumps and the various whatnots and confusion that can happen, it takes a couple read throughs. And even now, as we're talking, we're still open debate, still not 100% grasp on everything that happened.
Well, what do you think we're still debating?
Well, the whole thing with Superboy, is he dead? Is he not dead? We don't have any concrete answer.
And there is no I don't think there is one there. Other than you take a look at that event and either say to yourself, he's vaporized or he's transported and honestly, I firmly agree that like when you're saying that that's the way you're determined, I'm like, well, that's really a possibility that what Jim's saying is 100% true. So I don't know that it's a debate there because I don't think you're necessarily wrong in anything that you're saying. It's more of I guess I see more than one choice, and maybe that is where our debate is.
Yeah. Hey, you want to know something?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
You want to know something I literally just saw it at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've been talking about how many times I've read this issue, I never noticed it until now. When Kara takes out Hel-El with the really cool, funky Battle Axe spear type thingy, look at... if you get to the page where she's thrusting it into him, look at how those the red energy signatures coming off as he disappears. Then go to the Superboy page when he disappears.
It's the same stuff.
It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
I just noticed that now. So once again, adding to the fact that maybe Superboy isn't dead. Maybe he's broken down into the time zone or the time sphere or whatever the time whatnot. Maybe he's not gone yet.
I noticed some of that energy seems to be trickling off of Superboy, too, throughout the earlier parts of the issue. Like when he's talking to Kara before that in Argo City. Yeah. I actually want to talk about that sequence real quick if we could, because that could be his powers doing that, too. But in that sequence, I like that they had that moment where he realizes for the first time she didn't know what was going to happen to Krypton.
Yeah.
This was something that was kept from her. I really liked the way that, like... in that moment, there was a part of him that like felt an empathy towards her, and that was something that we've seen a lot of when he's encountered her without her knowing who he really is. He sees a side of her that he's never had the opportunity to see, and I've liked that softening. To me, killing him permanently would be a missed opportunity. I want to see these two after this at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely, but we're going to get some cool stories from the other Superboy and just everything playing out. So it's, as I say, I don't want this guy to die, and I didn't like the fact they killed him off. I gotta say, it was a cool story, and I'm looking forward to the future stories that we're going to get in Teen Titans and in his solo book and seeing where everything goes with that.
Oh, I'm super excited, and that's the funny thing. I wouldn't be angry if they do keep him dead. I mean, that's going to. I wouldn't be. It's a hope I have, and there is that part of me that's. And you're touching on this. I like the character a lot now, and because I'm really growing to like him and see what I really like about the Superboy concept in him, I don't want to see that happen, and I'm really grasping at. I don't know if I'm grasping at. I think there's evidence here to show that he could very well still be around, especially with what's going on around him with all these different timelines and junk like that. But regardless, this is just a terrific story of a battle by a power-mad being who feels that he's been wronged. And you can kind of see, where he feels totally disenfranchised. He's not connected with anything at all. Like he thinks he's a Kryptonian. He's not the way that he thought he was. And that lie, or that perception of a lie to him, is enough to send him over the edge where he's willing to do this. If you rip at time enough, at what point in time have you done so much damage that you are in a danger that you will never recover from? And I don't think he cares about that. He's so angry that his path of destruction is more important to him than any damage he could possibly cause.
He wants to recreate Krypton just so he can destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and he even throws out that line a couple times throughout this series that it started off as being Krypton's savior to realizing the big joke that he was never intended to be. He was pretty much a happy accident, and he reacted, anger. It was just pure rage, and it was just hatred. And instead of embracing the fact that he's alive, he kind of went the other way. And it's that extreme mentality, where it's a cool thing to have in a villain. So I'm not gonna, I don't want anyone thinking I'm knocking Hal-El, because I think he was an absolute wonderful villain, and I don't think he's completely gone yet. But it's going to be a long time till we see him return. But he was this really, just really cool villain in that he went through these stages. And I like seeing stages and growth in my heroes, but I also like seeing stages and growth in villains.
Absolutely.
And throughout this issue, with him fighting the 3 different fronts, you really do get to see that hatred, that anger, and just that growth of that villainy, within him. I
liked as the story went on, too. I liked when we saw that Hal-El, like Con-El, almost seems to, at a certain point in time, take a look at him and go, I never saw it before, but I can really relate to this guy. We were both made. We were both lied to. And those are things where he's kind of like, I think that, is that part where he finally starts to connect with his own humanity. You mentioned earlier, that he's a real boy now and all that kind of stuff, which was great, because I think you're right. There's a point there that his journey throughout this is kind of him coming full circle. And I want to see him come back, because I want to see this Connor able to... He hasn't had a chance to connect with the Titans feeling the way that he does now and move forward that way. Going off of what you're saying, though, I so want to see evil Superboy stories.
Oh, yeah.
That, I'm fine right now with them. They've got to obviously shelve this guy for at least some point in time. And I'm very fine with them doing that so I can get those stories. I want to see him back. There's a point where I want to see him back.
Oh, yeah, I do want to see Khan back, and I'd like to see him beat up evil Superboy and just have that moment where he's getting ready to take out all of his friends, and he shows up, round 2, buddy. Because you think about it, our Superboy won the first fight. He got pulled away by Oracle, but in the end, it was the evil Superboy who was knocked down a notch and pretty much beaten up, and... So I want to see that rematch, especially now that Khan, has this better knowledge of his power, better control over his power, and just, I think that'll be, again, a cool fight to have. But, I am excited to see where they're going to take the character, what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, and I say that whether he comes back or not, it'd be interesting if they stuck with the other guy too. I think it's a win-win in the story.
Well, think about just Kara and Clark running into the other Superboy, because that's not the Superboy who went back to Krypton with them, and they're going to have to deal with that and go, wait a minute, I thought he died. Wait, he didn't die. Where is he from? Who is this? And so now they'll have a whole new Superboy that they'll have to deal with and understand and try to get a grips on who he is. So, with them knowing that the clone, sacrificed himself to save people, what's going to happen with them dealing with the original? Or will they ever know he's the original? Will they think it's a temporal thing that, this is the same guy, but from a different time zone? Where's that story going to go? Because we have multiple fronts of, the Superboy story where it's going to play out. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm not so angry. I'm not angry at his death, because there's so many different things that can happen in this story that I'm excited for the future. I miss the other character, and I miss where that character could have gone, but there is still that hope that one may come back.
I'm angry at his death, but I'm angry at his death the way you should be. because he's a great character and he sacrificed himself, and I don't want to see him dead because I actually care about the character. But I'm not angry at the story. I'm not angry at the creators. Right. I think they delivered a great story, and if they keep him dead, fine. That was a great story. I'm anxious. The story did what it's supposed to do. It got me excited to read more. And that's ultimately, with these serialized stories, what the goal is. Make a gripping enough story where you want to continue reading more. They've left me in a place where I'm interested in the whole Superboy situation, because we've got a Superboy situation. And let me actually do the creative team real quick on Teen Titans, and you can do them on the other two books. It's Scott Lobdell writing, Scott McDaniel on breakdowns, Tyler Kirkham on pencils, Art Thiebaud on inks, Arif Prianto on colors, Travis Lanham on letters, Anthony Marquet as the assistant editor, Mike Cotton as the editor, Eddie Bergantz as the group editor, Superboy created by Jerry Siegel by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And apologize for any name butchery there, because I know I certainly did some. This has been a really interesting storyline, because we went from one arc to now being jumped through time to start getting more of the story on what's really going on with Kid Flash. And when you think about this, we've known since the beginning there's a story to be told about Kid Flash. We're 25 issues in, and we're just starting to get that story now. It's not clean. That's something. My favorite Teen Titans stories were the ones written by Marv Wolfman. And particularly the Wolfman and Perez era that brought about characters like Deathstroke and stuff like that. But what was great about those stories is they were mature. And they did things and played with conventions where it wasn't just a sidekick book. They had very deep stories going on where things happened to these characters that changed them in ways that were huge. There was always something going on that made you want to come back every month, because you were following a lengthy, big storyline on what was going on with the Titans. And you saw characters go through changes that would forever alter them, including things like Robin becoming Nightwing. Those were things that happened, and that was something that happened in a way where Robin became Nightwing in a storyline where he was finding himself within the Teen Titans book. And that was really a great journey with Dick Grayson. This is a book that has that kind of history. So when you're getting a storyline with Kid Flash like you're getting here, this is something I feel is really at home in Teen Titans. You got a character who's got a very dark past to escape from. This Raven as a character concept comes from something like that. And this is very much a Raven in the storyline. Ooh, boy, we got some issues with Raven. I really am enjoying this book as it's been going on. It's been a hard one for me to get crazy about, because initially I've always liked this book, but Red Robin was my latch on in the beginning. I was having trouble wrapping my head around the other Titans because they weren't my Teen Titans. And it became the Red Robin book for me, where because I so wanted to see his status quo and learn more about him, and it kept me enjoying the book quite a bit. I was really digging it. But then all of a sudden, I started to, along the way, start clicking with various characters as they put a spotlight on them. I started, getting to know them more, liking their new story arc. Wonder Girl, with the whole thing with her suit that was going on, and some of the revelations that have been revealed gradually about her. I've started to like the character a whole lot more than I did in the beginning, where she was unlikable with her approach. But I'm fine with the way that they did her journey. Kid Flash is another one. Bunker, I always liked. I had trouble getting to know him at first. Once I got to know him, I started to really like him. But Kid Flash is somebody who now I'm really into the idea of this guy who's like, what does he know, what doesn't he know? And I think it's pretty clear where we're at on that. Trying to escape that past, or the future, however you want to look at it, is something that I find really fascinating. I want to know more of his backstory, more than we know now.
Yeah.
And he actually wants to stop himself, which I think is great. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, and how much can you blame this Kid Flash for what happens in the future? Because this isn't the same person that did that, but he is the same person who did that. He doesn't have the knowledge. He doesn't have, the motivation. So this is a completely different person. This is a 100% reformed, criminal. Now, do you still punish him? And I think that for me was the cool part about this, because I am one of those guys who, looks at, can you really reform a criminal? Once a thief, always a thief. Once a killer, always a killer. There's a lot of, can they be reformed? Can a person actually turn over a new leaf and become a new person? Mm-hmm. I lean more towards the conservative side, where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to completely trust somebody, just because I'm a skeptic. I admit it. That's one of my character flaws, but it's also one of my character strengths. I'm a professional skeptic. It's what I do. But when I'm looking at Kid Flash, when I'm looking at Bart here, he is 100% reformed. We're seeing that this kid isn't the same killer that was. He even tries to stop himself. He tries to prevent the future, the future past.
I'm gonna have to stop you there for 1 second.
Yeah.
This is war, Kieran. War. Wham, 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 wham. Kid Flash with the whack.
Well, yeah, he's got a little bit of a bloodlust there, but I think
here's where I'm going to agree with you. I'm using this point though to agree with you. I know I'm sounds like I'm not, and I'm doing that to be silly. But if you follow that chain of events there, killing, you thought I was going to, oh my God, what is happening to me? There's 2 different personalities in there.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Is it a true disconnect? Is that part of him? Is it not? We don't know. I want to know that, because you're reformed, not reformed. Is that a moot point, or is it not? Meaning in the sense that, is there a separate personality there that has nothing to do with this one? And is that what's going on with him, or is there something more to it? Is it a past that's creeping up on him and this kid's reformed? I don't know. I want to find more about the storyline. I love that. I like that we don't know, and I like the mystery. I like what you're talking about, where you're sitting here saying, well, depending on where his storyline goes, I might feel that like he's fully reformed. I think that's awesome. And maybe that is the case. I don't know. And that stuff, I don't know. For me, that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy about Teen Titans, is when you get a storyline like this where sometimes you just don't know. They put a lot of their characters historically through the ringer. It's a teen book. A teen team is what I mean. And they really put these characters through some difficult, dark stuff. And I like that it's just, I think the Teen Titans historically as a book, and during the time Uncanny X-Men was doing this as well, there was a sophistication in the kind of storylines that were being told with teen characters that I thought was really interconnected. And I think it's no accident those books crossed over. Well, I know it's no accident. They were admiring what was going on both sides of the fence with it. And I think it's something that today has put this book back in the forefront again. I think the Young Justice cartoon that was out very recently captured a lot of the elements and essences of this as well. I don't know how much of that you saw. I know you watched quite a bit of it. But that cartoon, I think, had a lot of what I really think is essential Teen Titans storytelling.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. A book called Teen Titans, Young Justice, has such mature storylines and just dealing with death, betrayal, good, evil. There's so many different things that come up in the emotional side of it, and what we're getting, that kind of complex and just wonderful storytelling in the current version of Teen Titans. It's something that I'm like, all right, this is what I wanted from Teen Titans. This is the stuff when I first started reading the book. And I first, all those years ago where I finally got into it, I'm like, oh my God, this is cool. Because it was that whole, that kind of duality, that complexity that you're getting in a teen book. These are high school age kids. These aren't adults who are dealing with some serious stuff. And you look at this team, because we've got Bart, who is a killer. We've got, the new Superboy, who's a killer. We got Raven, who's evil. So you got a lot of darkness on this team. There's going to be a lot of possibilities of double cross and betrayal, but you also have that possibility of redemption. And I think that's where I'm curious to see who's going to be saved, who's not going to be saved, who's too far gone, who isn't too far gone. Can they bring them back? Bart is right now on he's up the bat right now. We're going to see what's going to happen to Bart within these stories. We talked about Superboy. Where is he going to go? What's going to happen to him? Is Khan going to come back? What about, Wonder Girl? There's still a lot of stuff in the air with these characters. And I think that, for me, is what's making, this process so much fun, because I don't completely know where everything's going. And I like the mystery. I like the surprise. I like the seeing, what's going on with Bart here in the future. And I'm excited for the, Superboy 26, which is going to have, I think it's issue 26, which is going to have Wonder Girl versus John. That fight. Again, another a fight in the future between those two characters. So it's like neat. It's, you're sitting there and I'm reading through this going, oh, I can't wait for that. When's that coming out? Oh, okay, cool.
And what happens when he realizes the real story? What's he going to do?
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm really finding interesting in this story. The whole Raven storyline that's going on, I find totally fantastic. There's so much going on here. And one of the things I really like about Teen Titans historically, too, and you see it in this book, is that not every character feels the same way about forgiveness. And a lot of them are skeptical the way you're saying. Some of them aren't. Some of them are seeking the redemption, like willing to open that doorway and embrace that. Whereas others kind of hold back that, well, hey, wait a minute, this is still the person who did this.
Yeah.
I'm not just willing to let that go. I think that's one of the best parts of Teen Titans historically has been this idea that not every member of the team is going to think the same way and feel the same way. That's where a story gets realistic and mature in a fantastic world, when you've got a team of characters that not everybody necessarily feels okay the way that the others do.
You know what I loved about Raven's story? And it's something I continue going on. I love about it is I really didn't see it coming. I'm so used to Raven fighting off her father's influence. I wasn't expecting her to be 100% full-on Team Trigon and just, joining the team to try to use them for her father's end goal. And I didn't see that coming. So when the big reveal came up and the big swerve came, I was like, oh my God, of course, that's why, the evidence is there. I should have seen it coming, but it was a great thing because I'm so used to her being the character that we've seen in the past, that was a great twist and a great way of handling her in the current. And again, another character, can she be redeemed? Can she fight off the influence? Is it actually her that's evil, or is it the influence from the father? Will we get that brooding Raven that we're used to, that we've seen in the past, where she's got to keep pushing away her father's influence? Or, can she not be saved? Is this going to, change the path or the dynamic of the team?
I love that Superboy has just been replaced by the other one last issue. It was, knowing that he was sent off by time, us not knowing at the time what was going to happen to him, and then coming back with wait a minute, our quote unquote Superboy now is going to be this guy. I'm very into this. I mean, talk about a great ending. I want to see the battle between him and Wonder Girl.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a judgment question here.
Sure.
Now, we both agree it was a great story, and so when I ask your opinion on it, I'm not saying good or bad. We both agree this was really cool. Yeah. I liked how they played it out, but with Beast Boy's decision, Beast Boy's and Rose's decision to send, this Superboy back with the Teen Titans, that was something I kind of questioned why he did that. Because for me, I was of the camp of Rose's camp, where you just take his head while he's weakened, and not let the villain. Or is Beast Boy looking at the power of the Teen Titans, saying the Teen Titans can reform this guy? The good of the Teen Titans can bring out the true hero in him? I
don't know. And I say that in the sense that I think we're going to find out as we go on. It was interesting to see the future and to see what the Teen Titans had gone through, and to see how our Titans dealt with the new versions of them, probably asking the same questions well, but what happened to us? Yeah. Those type of things, which I think is really great in a story like this, where you see that future. This takes me back to some of my favorite stories during the Jeff Johns run involved time travel. where they got to encounter older versions of themselves. This is kind of like that, but they're really dealing with a team that has moved on from them because of just, the nature of where things went. And I don't know. I was like questioning, like, why would you do that?
Yeah, and the thing I threw out there was that was my final. When everything was said and done, and the read-throughs and rereading the dialogue between him and Rose, just where she's like, you have faith in the Titans. Like, I've always had faith in them. That's where my mindset on what Gar was thinking when he sent them back. That he's he knows what the Teen Titans can do. He knows how they can work with him and make things better. But part of me does question, like, was that a good idea? I don't know, buddy. That's a big gamble to play, sending your greatest villain, your most powerful villain that killed off multiple superheroes, the big guns, he took them out. You're sending them back into the past. And not only are you sending them back in the past, you're sending them back in the past without warning the past. Oh, by the way, this isn't your friend I'm sending back. This is a really super powerful guy who's going to kill you if you let him.
Well, this is a futuristic no return label. Here's your gift.
Yeah.
No tag backs.
Oh, gee, thanks. Appreciate it. Can we re-gift him?
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see where that storyline goes. I'm with you. I was kind of baffled by Gar's behavior, but one of the things I like about time travel storylines and alternate futures, because that's what this is. It's a future that hasn't been written yet, so that future can be gradually changed. Beast Boy's future can be changed by the very fact of what he did. He changed the future. Sending this guy back changes the future or causes it to happen. Who knows? We're going to find out along the way as the storyline gradually continues. I like this kind of stuff because it gets all kinds of heady. Because it is what came first, the chicken or the egg, in this case. And I don't know.
Can Batman escape? One hint, the worst is yet to come.
Jim, I want to shout out real quick a Kickstarter, and this one's called Ashes, and the first issue's coming out. It's from Zero Comics, and this is done by Chris Bell and Bill Giancoli, and they're the creators of, if you've participated in the Kickstarter for Gears, this is their second book, and I think it's really, really great they're doing it through Kickstarter. The thing I'm loving about Kickstarter is just these wonderfully rich, creative endeavors that are finding a way to print, because the community is able to help put them together. They've got, as of this recording, they've got like 12 days left, and I pledged for it because I just think it's a really cool concept. An agent of death for the living and a jaded government worker in the hereafter, Grimm doesn't have many friends. What he does have is the best job in existence. The satisfaction of watching a dope bet his buddies he can stop a lawnmower with his tongue, collecting his soul, then introducing him to an unimpressive eternity is priceless. So when Grimm's career is cut short by human ingenuity and internal transfers, he is faced with an eternity of uncertainty. So I love that, like, the whole human job condition comes into the afterlife. Yeah. He's basically been downsized.
You'd think, death would be something that doesn't get downsized, but, well, hey, it happens to us all.
So when I read this, like, I had to, like, pledge for this one. So I just wanted to shout it out. Bill, if you remember the name, we, early on in the show, we were a part of Get Your Geek on Radio. And that was an online radio station that had all kinds of really cool geek programming, and we were one of the shows that was on there, and he put that together. So I just wanted to give the Kickstarter a shout-out. There's going to be links in the show notes, and if you follow our Facebook group or Twitter, you've already seen the link to this. I posted there first, just to make sure it was timely. But thank you for considering helping out this project. I want to see it see the light of day. I just think this is incredibly interesting. So I want to be a part of this. I wanted to shout it out before we talk about Aquaman. And speaking of Aquaman, Jim, can you take us into our chat about Aquaman?
Well, we are going to be discussing Aquaman number 25. The writer is Jeff Johns. Pencils by Paul Pilateri. Inks by Sean Parsons. Colorist Rob Reese. With letterer DZ Cienti. With the cover by Paul Pelletier. Pellettier, Sean Parsons and Ron Reese, with associate editor Chris Conroy, group editor Matt Idelson, and Aquaman was created by Paul Morris. And I really did want to make sure to give full credit to not only writing team but art team, because this is an absolutely beautiful book. It was absolutely just outstanding in the visual stuff. So all respect and hopefully no insult in how I butchered people's names, because there's nothing but respect going on with this title.
This is a big story because there's been a time shift for Aquaman. He's lost months, and he was being taken care of by Vulko, and things happened during that time. His kingdom was overrun. And he's come to this realization that everything he knew about his past isn't true. He is only a king because of the fact that his family stole the kingdom from the true king. The claim is real. I like this kind of story. And not only is this going on, but you've got Mira having her own issues. And I kept wondering through it, if she's his queen, did they never get married? Like, because she's supposedly his queen, and he says, that she's... So I guess the big thing is with her being promised to this guy, does that mean they never got married? Have they said in the book that they didn't get married? Because Atlantis refers to her as Aquaman's queen. So wouldn't that imply that they were married? Or am I missing? Am I wrong on this? And I could be. It could be he just named her the queen, and that's who she is because he did it in name.
Yeah. That's how I take it, that there has never been a formal ceremony of their marriage. Just the fact that he's the king and she's his lady friend, that makes her the queen. And I think that was the whole reference and how she, assumed, has the title. And she's recognized by the people because of her connection to Aquaman. I think that's why she has the title. I don't think there was ever any formal wedding, decoration, coronation, and whatnot within the underwater kingdom. And I don't remember them ever officially saying that no, they haven't been formally married. Mm-hmm. But when I read this is when I get it by, and especially the fact that she was betrothed to the other guy would explain why she wouldn't, push for the marriage, why she wouldn't, go through with, really want to lock it in, because she's like, hey, I got this whole other thing going on that I can't tell Arthur that technically we can't get married because I'm promised over here. Well, now that's all separated, said, and done, and I think it's just an accepted among the culture and accepted among the people that she's the queen. And I don't know if we'll get a formal, this is my wife, wedding ceremony, dearly beloved, we're gathered here today, type of storyline. I don't think we're going to get that, but it's just going forward, it's just the assumption of marriage.
I want that if they weren't. I do. I want that eventually. See, to me, I know there's this crazy thing going on where, people can't get married at DC. Aquaman needs to be married to Mira. If it doesn't happen, I'm willing to wait for it. Let's see it in the storyline. But I don't know. I mean, I think there comes a point where you're going a little too far. And I don't know. That he's the king. That's his queen. That it needs to be that way. If it's not, I guess... I was taking this whole sequence. I don't remember them ever officially saying they weren't married. Have they done that? Or is it just because of, people are taking those isolated scenes where it says she was promised to somebody else that has implied that they weren't married?
Yeah, I took it that I don't remember them ever saying they weren't married, but I took it as if they're not actually married. They never had the formal ceremony, is how I've always read this going, but I also see them accepting each other. It's one of those, where we get people who are living together, who technically on a piece of paper, does it say they're married? No, but to them, they're married. To them, there is that commitment, there is that love, there is that, that going forwardness of unity between the two of them. They just don't have that legal document. And that's how I kind of always, have always been reading Aquaman and Mira. Now, personally, I think this is the character that needs to be married. I really like the king and queen aspect of it. Just the whole, it fits his character, it fits his personality, and it fits the story that he is this powerful king. He has his powerful queen, and together they're a force to be reckoned with. And I think that's part of the strength of Atlantis. It's not just the power of the king who is powerful. It is his queen. It is his people. There is something more to, the story. It's the surface and underwater kingdoms coming together. It's, the marriage. It's the hero. It's all these different aspects coming together and dealing with each other.
Yeah, and I'm into waiting. That doesn't bother me. The whole, we might have to wait to see them married. I just, at some point in time, I would love to see these two get married. I mean, I think I think it's an essential part of them as characters. I know it's kind of weird to say that, but I think, there's certain relationships, like if Elongated Man comes back, if they create a new version of him, for the new 52, he eventually needs to be Ralph and Sue eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that you don't need to throw out the window. They just work. And I don't know. It's something I'm kind of picky on. Like, I'm loving the whole Superman Wonder Woman thing. Eventually, he's got to be with Lois. I feel that. I don't think he's more interesting because he's not. I mean, I'm digging the storyline, but I still...
Oh, God, yeah.
I want to see it get back to that eventually, however long it takes. The scepter thing?
Yeah.
I find incredibly interesting because think about all the trouble they had with the trench. They went down. He's going down there and saying to himself, I'm going to rely on this scepter to allow me to lead these creatures, to really give me that kind of moment. I don't know that I would be doing that in that situation, but I love that it makes sense for him to be doing it.
Well, I think the whole concept of the 7 seas, of the 7 kingdoms, was just absolutely wonderful. We have these ancient 7 kingdoms that were in the world, and because of the sinking of Atlantis, they separated and they all evolved differently. You have the Atlanteans, you have the Trench, and then you have Mira's people. So you have 3 of the 7 kingdoms, and the others are out there. The others are still out there. Where are the other kingdoms? And I thought that concept alone was just, the fact that how everything's coming back from the Trench and who they are. And I love just bringing the story together where we have this great ending, but it's just the beginning of the next chapter, basically. It's going to continue on because this isn't the end. The other kingdoms aren't dead. They're still out there. I thought that for me was just a cool concept behind everything that's out there going forward, and the story isn't done yet, but it is.
I really like the idea that they went back through history and they pulled in certain elements like Ur and Atlan, all that kind of stuff, and brought them into play. But they also did things like the 7 kingdoms, like you're mentioning. I think it's a classy way for a writer to go out, because Jeff Johns has now left an awful lot of mythos in place for a new writer to come on and play with, choosing which elements they want to play with, which ones they don't, and how they want to explore and add and develop that isn't up to the new writer. I think that is great. That has me excited for future Aquaman storylines. He left me in that kind of place, but also left me with an ending, and we'll talk about it as we get to it, with an ending that I felt was very rich and very satisfying. This is a big run. This has been a book that's been very important to me. I'm not happy about seeing Jeff Johns leave, only because I love the book. I'm very anxious to see where the book goes, because this is a character that has become very important to me. And I think when a writer does their job on a comic, they make you care so much about the character that when the writer's going to leave, you still want to continue reading them. But by the same balance, you also want to know where is this writer going to wind up next. I love that there's a story to be told here that is going to play out in Justice League with Jeff Johns. This isn't our last big Aquaman event with him. The biggie's coming, and it's going to be a Justice League event. I can't wait to see that.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's, again, as I said, and you hit it perfectly where he laid this down. So the next creative team, I'm still gung-ho Aquaman, because I want to see where this goes, from here. I want to see this continuing evolution. But the thing that really I loved, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, how his, Aquaman's bloodline isn't the good guys. He was the betrayer. His family came from the brother who betrayed the original king, who, murdered him. And, he comes from the heel side, but he is this king. He is this noble, person. And it's, again, it's that story of, your genetics versus, upbringing, nurture versus nature. He was raised to be honorable. He was raised to be a hero. He was raised to bring, the surface and the kingdoms, under the seas together. So he's pushed aside from what his genetics was and what his past family history did to do the right thing. And I love just seeing the fact that he was technically from the bad guy's family. And that, for me, was a really cool, that's a neat moment.
Well, they were afraid their race was going to get diluted, right? Wasn't that the premises there? By these other outsiders coming in and being welcomed, they were no longer going to have their, genetic code or their, whatever, their lineage,
Yeah, they're pure Atlantean, birth, and it's going to dilute the mix. And it's kind of interesting because that's something they've always had issues with him, because he is part human, because he's not 100% pure blood.
It's a very contemporary story in the sense that it's, I think it's a statement on some of the issues our world still has. And that's something I love when art imitates life, when comics do that, and you root for Aquaman to bring a better way. I love that kind of stuff. I'm very into when social issues are echoed and mimicked in comics. They make you realize, like, just how silly they are. And, maybe we should, in our real life, try to be more like the heroes that we read. That stuff is important to me. So I love this part of the story.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's weird because a lot of times when I'm reading the stories, those kind of stuff doesn't pop in my head initially. Again, I'm just reading this, I'm enjoying the story, but when you get to, like, that second, third read through, when talking to you or talking to other people, you start seeing the big picture. You start seeing the stories. And I always wonder how much in writing the story are they trying to send out a message, or is it just telling the story? And these are gripping human factions. These are stuff that really gets you, tug at your heartstrings, really get you emotionally connected to the story. Or are they trying to teach something? Are they trying to show the world, hey, there's a different way of handling it? I always kind of got those stories and those vibes from the best X-Men story, just because of the outsiders, just because of they were different and they were being mistreated just because of, they were born with the powers as opposed to being bitten by a radioactive spider. That was something I always, got into with the X-Men. And you see that kind of stuff in, like, this Aquaman story, in with other hero stories where, you kind of, it's that empathy towards them, but it's that, this is what's going on in the world. Let's step up.
The whole bit where Arthur finally confronts Atlan and the two of them are having that battle. And I liked how Volko stepped in and showed his true colors. I've liked what they've done with Volko, where he is trying to protect the kingdom. He's kept secrets. He's done things. And you can understand, it goes back to what we were kind of discussing with the Teen Titans earlier. How can you trust him, but yet you don't want him to go anywhere because, man, is he an interesting part of the storyline as the advisor. And I'm glad that character is a part of the story because I've always liked the Volko character. But the bit where Atlan goes to shove down the scepter to destroy Atlantis again, and Arthur steps between the scepter and Atlantis, grasping the whole thing. It's under my protection now. And the reaction was the part that got it for me. Did you see him catch that scepter? How is that possible?
Yeah.
What a great moment. I mean, I needed to high five something. I probably broke something in my house, like going crazy during that moment. That's something when a comic can bring that to life and it feels like a movie, those high five moments in films. That's what that was to me. That was a part where it's like, oh yeah, now the games are going to begin. I want to see this battle kick it up. It was a Rocky moment. And it was just really great for me. I loved that.
Well, and it was the moment where Arthur wins over the other Atlanteans. He wins over the Left Eye there. And it's like, hey, I am the king of Atlantis. This is what's going on here. And I thought that, for me, again, I'm with you on the high five moment where he catches it, and just the whoa kind of step up moments where the fight gets kicked up to another notch. He's bleeding from the chest. He was stabbed. He's gutted, but he's still fighting on. You got to love those heroic moments where you take the pain, you push through, and you persevere. To the point where, these moments of when, they're getting the lava, the scepter's being burned, fires all around him. Is he strong enough to make it? Of course he is. And he steps out of the fire, emerges out of the fire victorious. I loved just those couple pages leading through, because everybody is like, what? You kind of get that same, that, did he make it? What's going on? What's going to happen? Where's this coming from? And part of me in my head was wondering, are they going to go with a little bit of deformed Aquaman, bring back the claw hand, the spear hand, which I kind of dig, but I'm kind of glad he's in one piece whole when he came out, because that was a really cool, powerful moment, seeing him, swim out of the fire.
You know what the funny part is? You mentioned the claw hand, the hook hand.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of that. Like, that whole look and everything, I wouldn't trade that now in a million years. And I'm saying it as a fan who loved that era of Aquaman, terrific era of Aquaman. This has been so well established, he doesn't need a hook hand. Give him that scepter and get him to fighting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
I know you're saying that. I'm more validating it as you haven't read that Aquaman like I have. I'm saying right now, I'm a believer. So that wasn't a dispute in anything that you said or trying to question your, what your motivations were. This is just me kind of speaking from that standpoint. I don't know if other people who, were big fans of the Peter David run, which is fantastic. I feel like this has all of those elements, but yet it's its own definitive era as well. And I'm very, very into Aquaman right now. It's just a terrific book. They hit all the right beats. When he's confronting Mira, when he and Mira are having the talk at the end where he's like, I have to do this. In that moment, I took responsibility to be king. I need to do this. I have to be this king. And you see the relationship where it's like, I can't be a part of this. You need to understand there's a part of this that I can't, for so many reasons, I can't be a part of. And she has to make that fatal decision, and he does too, where it's the tragic lovers. I just loved every bit of that moment. I'm like, but no, she has to be there with him. I wanted to do an intervention on the two and say, listen, you guys really should not be talking about this alone because you're going about it so horribly wrong. Yeah. I loved that bit of the story, the way that played out.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm nodding my head as you're talking, because when I read this the first time through, and I'm seeing this, and we know in the back of our heads that DC kind of has this no marriage thing among their heroes and whatnot. And I'm just like, so I'm thinking they're going to keep them apart for a little while, but maybe they'll be back together. And then I'm just trying to figure out what they're going to do with it. But I'm just like, come on, man, come on. And you get the tender moments of, and I loved how she's crying underwater, but they're able to distinguish between her tear and the outside water all around them, which I thought that was a cool art look, because we got to know that she's crying, because on dry land, it's easy to show, the cry, but when you're underwater, it's kind of hard to show it. And I loved just how the art team created that and got that whole, talking everything, coloring, inking, just the heavy the heavy shading and the shadows and just really the darker tones of it really just kind of, it's that sad music playing in the background. It's that setting that emotional. It's tugging at your heartstrings. It's making you go, dang it, man, come on. I want a happy ending. And you get those moments where we finally see them together. We see that she comes back. I was like hooping and hollering. I had both hands in the air. I was high-fiving myself. It was just a really cool hoorah moment. And it was really just a love story coming through that I was cheering for. I was hooping and hollering for the fight sequences, which were cool and beautifully done, but it was just this emotional tugging at the heartstrings that really had me cheering and really had me happy.
It's about acceptance of all facets of the person you love. And in that moment, she showed, he's done that for her.
Yeah.
She's doing that for him. And I think there's a part of that where there's a give and a take. There's an understanding that goes there where they stand by each other. When they're swimming off together, I'm like, yes, that is just one of the coolest things in the world. This is just a great love story being told here. And I think that's really awesome when you can deliver that in a comic. It's a different sort of emotion. But they're not done yet, because we've got Orm, who I completely forgot about. And we wondered if this is what happened with him, that he went back. Not only did he go back and save her, but he, was building a life of sorts.
Well, he stayed with her throughout the whole process. So Aquaman, Arthur slept through the entire Forever Evil storyline is what it sounds like to me when I'm reading this. And Orm stayed with her and got her through all the evil and the darkness going on. So I'm thinking when we read these Forever Evil stuff, we're not going to really see Aquaman in the storyline.
Yeah, I don't know.
But my question, though, with the trident, how do they get that back? Because that does of it. Because right now in Forever Evil, Black Adam has it. Not Black Adam, Black Manta has it.
Is that the same trident?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or, I guess here's the other question. Does Forever Evil take place after this? And this epilogue that's happening there is, concurrent with what's going on in Forever Evil? Meaning that Forever Evil's not quite done yet when we see that sequence?
Right.
This is a prelude to when Forever Evil will be done and what's going to happen in Justice League? Does Forever Evil allow for this to happen without Aquaman realizing it?
Okay, I get you. Yeah, actually, that could be. The Forever Evil, because Orm gets out of prison through Forever Evil. That whole thing was all Forever Evil tie-in. But this all could be, Forever Evil could have taken place easily after all this events. Okay.
Is what I guess what I'm saying is this epilogue, is it going on during Forever Evil? While the event is still happening? Because we don't know how long timeline-wise that occurs. How much time passes during Forever Evil? We don't know that yet.
The only reason why I don't think this is taking place during Forever, I think this is taking place after Forever Evil, is because of some of the dialogue that she's saying. How how she's how he's been there for them throughout everything. How he came back and how you saved me and my son when prisons opened up. You're protecting us even now.
But that was the last time. The last time we saw him was when that happened.
Right.
So there isn't a whole lot of dialogue about how much time passed just happened between that and what's happening on these pages. I don't think it was yesterday for them. Certainly a certain amount of time has passed, but we don't really know what that amount of time is here.
Right. And again, it's I look at the sky in the background. I don't see the red. But it is dark, so it could be still the blocked out sun. But the fact that she's sitting there holding the cups of coffee and looks like she's got the coffee pot plugged in and running, they didn't really have power and they didn't really have a lot of creature comforts. So I wouldn't imagine them kicking back and relaxing during Evil.
Right.
But it could actually be going on right now.
But that's what you just said is a powerful argument, actually.
Right.
I agree with your point there. That could really be what the case is. Just a great series. I was loving it before the whole New 52 thing kicked off. What was going on with Aquaman. And, the way this character's had a resurgence, and Mira in particular, has been something that I've been enjoying before the New 52 kicked off. And when they did get this series going there, here's the thing. What we haven't seen? There's been no Aqualad.
No.
I wonder if we're ever going to get him.
Well, the most recent version of Aqualad was Black Manta's son.
Mm-hmm. So who knows?
So I'm assuming that's the Aqualad we're going to get when they do introduce Aqualad. I'm assuming, but I don't know for certain.
Yeah, will there be time for that? I don't know.
Yeah, but also though, this Aqualad, because Black Manta is 100% mortal, so he's got no Atlantean in him. He needs the suit. That Aqualad's got power, so it's that Black Manta was with one of Mira's people to make that Aqualad. So I don't know.
And his story could be different. Who knows? I mean,
definitely. They could definitely change it. I think they're going to go with that character though, because I think he was very popular, and it was something that it was a great modern take on it, and a modern, a modern spin, a modern telling of the character of Aqualad. And I think they would be making a mistake not to bring that Aqualad in.
I'm glad they didn't just shove him in there.
No, they're building. They're building up this universe. They're building up his mythos. Think this is Aquaman. It's funny because when they first came out, we were like, "Oh my god, this is awesome!" And everyone's saying, "I can't believe Aquaman is this awesome." We're 25 issues into it. We're still saying this is awesome. We're going to get a new creative team in here. I'm still excited for the new creative team because the foundation that this character is built on has been such an incredible run that I want to see the character grow. I want to see the story grow. We got the next version coming of the Seven Kingdoms going on in the Justice League. We're going to see this character, this story continuing on through there. There's a lot of excitement, I'm having for Aquaman. Now, me personally, I like him with the beard. I like the beard. I think it's more regal and it seemed more noble.
I don't care either way.
Yeah.
As long as he kicks butt.
Well, that's a given. That's a given. We both want that, but I don't know. There's just something
he could pull off. He could pull off an Aqua Tutu for all I care. Yeah, I mean it's he's entered kick butt territory, which is great. I liked the beard look too. I don't know that I care either way though. So the beard look kind of goes back to what I liked about him when he had the hook hand because he had that look then too. So I don't know. I don't. He's one of those characters that I think he can pull off a variety of different looks. So whatever he does is just great to me because it's how it shows that when you write the character the right way, he really is engaging, and there's a unique nature to like you're interested in the underwater kingdom, the Seven Kingdoms. I want to know more about that. I'm into this, so this stuff has really got me, and that's a sign of a good story. Talk Suicide Squad.
Oh God, yeah, definitely. Our next comic will be Suicide Squad. Number 25. The writer is Matt Kindt, with arts by Patrick Zurcher, colors by Jason Keith, with letterer Jared K. Fletcher, with Gary Frank, Brad Anderson on the cover. The senior editor is Brian Cunningham, with associate editor Harvey Richards and editor Will Moss.
Can I say something before you go any further? You need to apologize to the book for the name butchery. Because I think you did a really good job with the creative team.
yeah, I did great with the names, but the title I butchered. Suicide Squad.
Yeah, likely story. I loved this concept of this book. You've got villains, and you've got a situation where Amanda Waller is kind of in the pulse, and she's there with the Thinker inside the prison. And when the two of them are kind of having their own little, chess match that's going on in there, she doesn't realize that basically there's a whole big play going on here. There's two teams. One of them actually both of them think they're working for her. One of them actually is working for her. I've been really loving this book. It's one I'm going to admit I stockpiled for a while, not because of quality or because I disliked it. It was because of time. I have a new job this year, and just the time has made it hard for me to stay caught up with every one of my comics. So there's weekends where I'll take a book, and there's just a handful of them that I've been stockpiling, and I'll just kind of sit down and really enjoy the experience of reading 5 issues of it, which is really what I had to do with Suicide Squad to get caught up. And then we talked about doing Suicide Squad, and I'd already been caught up, and I'm like, because you threw it out there saying, like, hey, let's talk Suicide Squad. I'm like, oh, yes, I would love to talk Suicide Squad, because I was in that point with it. Because we've had a lot of changes happen in the book, especially with things like the unknown soldier being introduced into the story, which I've been really digging, because he's got a whole bunch of issues of his own that are going on in the story, but I feel it's very true to the concept of the unknown soldier as well. But I've really loved the development of characters like Yo-Yo, what's going on with Deadshot, Harley, King Shark, all this kind of stuff that's going on here. They're just great characters that I'm just really enjoying. It's got all the elements of what I like about a great villain book.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's one of those... We talked about this every time we mention it. We always bring it up how we wanted this to be our next Secret Six, but it's not the same thing. It's not just the story about the villains. It is a villain book, but it has its own feel, and it has its own growth, and it has its own vibe. And it was something that, this is another title, by issue 25, I wouldn't want it any other way. How this team has gone through, what the process, what the evolution of them, I'm loving this dynamic. I'm loving this version of Deadshot. I'm loving this, how the team cross, double cross, triple cross, various betrayals and whatnot that go down, that this is something that's been a really neat concept where anything can truly happen. You don't know who's going to live, who's going to die, who's going to kill who, and it's that unknown. It's that crazy chaos of order and confusion and swerving that has made Suicide Squad one of those books that I'm absolutely loving. And the perfect connection and tie-in to Forever Evil is this title. This title fits right where it is. Everything, as soon as Forever Evil happened, we knew this would have a good spot in it, and it completely is playing off, and we're getting some great stuff with, James Gordon being in there. We got my man, the Thinker there, and of course, Amanda Waller is being the Wall. There's just some great, great moments coming on through this title that, if back, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have seen this much, from this title.
Captain Boomerang back in the book, but I love that there's like a hero group being brought in for this particular part of the storyline, rallying with the Unknown Soldier, where we got Steel and Power Girl and stuff like that. I really like the way this whole storyline's playing out in that sense as well, because we're seeing characters that are brought in for a reason. This is the quest for OMAC. They're all trying to get their hands on OMAC to use as a weapon, because OMAC's kind of a mindless puppet right now. Is that the way you're kind of taking it? Like his normal alter ego is not in control of OMAC. So it's an opportunity for them to use OMAC as a weapon, or to take OMAC off as a potential weapon. I don't know. I can see. I'm going to be curious to see which side wins and what they're going to ultimately do with the character.
Well, that was, another really cool swerve, because you get the hero team being used by the villain, and the villains are actually reporting to Waller. So you get that classic moment where you have this team of heroes coming into a team of villains, and they both are saying, hey, I'm working for Amanda Waller. And I love the fact that we get that initial fight, but the heroes are smart enough to recognize something's not right here. And they don't completely let themselves get in mindset of, ooh, bad guy, hit bad guy. We do get a couple violence, we do get some fight sequences, but we get these heroes recognizing, okay, there's something more happening. And that's something I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming. I was expecting the villain team to have to do a little bob and weave and get around it. And I really wasn't seeing the heroes to catch on. And I was really happy that they were able to catch on. But we have just the brilliant strategy of the Thinker, of Harley, of all the villains the true villains in this world, that they're able to play off of the chaos that is created in the fight sequence. I loved a swerve in this title. We had like a triple swerve going throughout this title, and that was something I was like, oh, that is cool.
With this whole Task Force X storyline, that like they weren't the first one, and there's going to be more. I love that this leads to her going down the base and saying, look, I've got to pull out all stops. We kind of lost my whole little chess match right here when it came to OMAC. So now I've got to break out Kane. You're so right about James Gordon Jr. being a part of this and what's being done with that character. I never saw that coming, and I'm really liking that twisted element to the story.
Oh, God, yeah.
What a character that really, to have him monthly. The rotating of a cast in this, but yet keeping some of the main players, I think has been a real strong key to this book. And the craziness that is Harley playing out the way that it did in this storyline, I think is so much what works in this title, as well as the understanding of how to utilize these combustibles with each other in a way that makes sense in a villain book. That's something that I've really been digging. If you're not reading Suicide Squad, you really should be. I don't want this to be my next Secret Six. I wanted this to be a great Suicide Squad story. Echoing what you're saying, I would love to have a Secret Six book, but I think it's it's different than this. I loved the whole Suicide Squad Secret Six team up that happened before the New 52. I thought there was something that showed the distinction between the two teams there. I love that this team's just a little bit crazier, a little bit more maniacal on what's going on. And I think that it'd be great to have a new Secret Six that, complements it at some point in time. I don't know if that could ever be in the cards or anytime soon is going to be in the cards, but boy, I would love to see it because this is a story I'm really digging.
Oh yeah, and there was some really cool moments of, again, Deadshot is just incredible character here. He's going up against Power Girl. He's got really no arsenal that's going to do anything against her. But he still was throwing down. He still was shooting to the point where she had to crush his one wrist gun and neutralize that. Just, it wasn't doing any damage to her, but it was starting to get a little annoying, and she needed to neutralize it, but he's not out of the picture. He's able to get his hands on another gun. He's able to, do it. And it was just that cool, Mexican standoff type moment where Steele's got his, pretty much threatening to crush the skull of Captain Boomerang, but he's got a gun to his skull. He's got a gun to the unarmored skull, and he's like, hey, yes, you can do it, but you're not a killer. You know it, and I know it. And I love just that little moments there where, one, Steele's not backing down, but, it's that the strength of character for all of these people. All of them are standing strong, all of it, and it's that moment where, okay, here's where we got to figure out what's going on. I love just, again, seeing that, that break away from just the fight, beat up the bad guys moment.
Harley, is she really with the Thinker?
I want to say yes, but you never really know with Harley. And even in Thinker's assessment of her, he says, she's highly intelligent and completely, unpredictable. She's right now doing his thing, but you never know. At the last minute, she can turn on him. Because you had those moments of Harley and Deadshot working together. In Harley's mind, she could be setting up for another swerve. Or she's completely in on with the bad guys, or right now she's in on the bad guys, but if she sees, hey, I need to change up sides here, let me shift over here and double cross them at the most opportune moment for me. You never really know how Harley's going to play it.
Well, and what does she consider an opportune moment, and what is the opportunity for her? Because she's not rational.
That's not always.
Well, and who's running the show, Harley or Harleen?
Right.
Which I love that too.
And this throughout the whole time, they're calling her Harley. We haven't seen any reference to Harleen.
No, but she calls herself Harleen.
Right.
She talks to herself.
Yeah, and that's so you never know. And I think that's the cool part of not showing her interdialogue. That she's not giving away anything. She's doing the part that she needs to do. She blasts the prison, and then she's planning on getting him out of there to quote unquote to deliver OMAC to the bad guys.
Yeah.
But is she really? Or is she going to take OMAC there and blast the bad guys?
I don't know. She's could be up to all kinds of craziness. That's one of the things I love about her. She's a powder keg. You never know what she's going to do. And, emotionally, something can set her off and we don't know what it is. And I like that part. I think that makes her a great character. So who knows? I'm loving every bit of this storyline. Suicide Squad in particular is a book that I was enjoying before the creative switch. Now that we have the creative switch, I'm still digging it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's, whenever you get a creative team switch over, you always wonder, is it still going to be the same the same quality that we had before? And this is one of those titles where it's going right through, everything's flowing through, and I'm still getting that same cool story and that same, again, they're not forgetting what happened in the past.
Yes.
They're moving on. They're going forward with it. And I think that's a strength of a transition team. That's a strength of a team that goes from one creative team to another creative team that says, no, we're doing our thing, but we're not going to, throw out what's been done. We're going to work with it. We're going to use it to strengthen our story. And I think that it's that longevity that you get that feeling and you get that connection and you get that enjoyment.
I agree with you. That's something that I think is a strength of the book, is when you can make a switch, when you can change things up a little bit, and yet at the same time not throw out the window that which worked. It's a great series, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk about it, because we have not talked Suicide Squad in a long time. And I think it's a series that's well deserving of it because it's certainly got an important part in my stack. You know, the funny part is when I got caught up on it, it's one of those titles that now, like, I can't wait for the next issue. So I sometimes that's fun. I don't know if you have that, because I know sometimes you run in the same boat I do, where timing-wise, certain books will get stockpiled. And do you find, like, if you get caught up on those series, you sometimes get, like, just reinvigorated and energized in it, where, like, all of a sudden that book falls in a very different spot in your stack because you've had a chance to really enjoy it, almost like in a trade format?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And Suicide Squad is one of the ones that I did stockpile like you did, but it wasn't quality of work. It was because I had the green titles, I had the Bat titles, I had the Super titles, I had all these events going on. And when Forever Evil came out, I knew the connection. I did a massive read through, and I even went back a couple issues before Forever Evil, and I had a nice sit down reading where I think I read like 4 or 5 issues all back to back. And I think, when you go through and you do it that way, you get a lot more out of it because, it's, even if you've read the issues, I'm finding I'm reading. When a new issue comes out, I'm reading the other issues sometimes just to kind of go boom, boom, 1, 2, punch.
I'll tell you, if I get caught up on, because I've got a little bit more stockpiling to get myself caught up on. If I get caught up, I think there's some of my series that I've been really digging since the beginning that I'm going to start, like, read from the beginning again, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we've got 25 issues. Just because I'm really enjoying reading bundles of these books' issues. Not that I want to take away because I love the monthly fix. But I'd love to just experience some of these titles in the 4 to 5 format that I did with Suicide Squad, because this book really benefited from that for me. It's a great title.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
Hey, Raging Bulleteers. This is Jason from the podcast that goes Snikt, and I need your help. I read Superman 25 last night, and even after sleeping on it, I still don't really completely get it. I normally can follow these types of stories along pretty well, being a long-time comic reader. And don't get me wrong, I really actually enjoyed the Krypton Return story up to this point. Thought it was pretty good. Didn't really want to see it, but I even thought the death of Superboy was done really well. It was a good death. And I know the tease at the end was just that, a tease. You're kind of supposed to go, huh? But the part I'm confused about is I really don't understand exactly what Superman did to Hell. And, I know he put him in a loop. I don't really understand how that works. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but that part actually kind of distracted me from kind of some of the other cooler elements of the last chapter there of the story, including Superboy's death. So, anyway, I was wondering if y'all had any insight and clarification. Maybe I just wasn't having my best comic reading day. But anyway, as usual, love the podcast. Love to hear what you think. I'm sure y'all are planning on talking about this anyway. But anyway, I did really enjoy it. I'm just a little confused by the end of Hell with the whole super frozen breath time loop thing. Anyway, also, Jeff Johns' last Aquaman was amazing, so I can't wait to hear y'all talk about that story as well. I know, happy Thanksgiving, you guys. Bye.
And actually, Jason's voicemail led to this episode, so I want to thank you, Jason, and make sure if you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast that goes Snikt. So that's cool. I love that. He does the sound effect from Wolverine's claws.
Yes.
Hi, this is Jack. Sorry about the breakup on the connection, guys. I was recording it outside my office, and then, of course, they let me into the office. And when I got in the office, it must have screwed everything up. So I won't be doing that anymore. But anyhow, what I wanted to do, there was a couple things. One, I wanted to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving, which I guess is, no longer relevant, but it was relevant at the time. Number two, I was calling about the Doctor Who 50th. Now, I got to go see the Doctor Who 50th on a big screen at a movie theater. It was amazing. One of my pals from work, she bought me a ticket, and she had never seen Doctor Who before, but she wanted to, basically get me a birthday gift. And so we went in there and watched this thing, and one of the things that was amazing, the story was fantastic, and like Sean, Tom Baker is my favorite doctor. I love them all. There's no negative about any of them, really, as far as I'm concerned. I've seen them all and loved them all, but Baker was my favorite doctor. And there was a total geek out moment when he shows up. Just from his voice, half the audience of a very full movie theater applauding. Anyway, I was interested on what Jeanette would think about this, having never seen the Doctor before. I mean, she's seen she's not actually seen episodes. She knows who he is because she knows me. You know, that's like, you know, if you know me, you know who the Penguin is after you've met me for 3 days. You know, so anyhow, she just loved it. She's not a committed Doctor Who fan or anything at this point, but she thought that was just a terrific movie, and she had a lot of fun with it. So I wanted to let you guys know about the experience we had, and then they had a behind-the-scenes featurette on the making of the Doctor, of the episode. And I was wondering how you guys saw it. Did you see it in the movie theater like we did, or did it come out on BBC? Because I don't get BBC America. I have to wait for DVD. The other thing is, the other question was, one of the characters that I really like is the Toyman, okay? My favorite Toyman is either the creepy Tim Burton Toyman that's like a ventriloquist, or the silly Silver Age Ed Wynn Toyman with the big painter's bow tie and the rainbow-colored suit. I like both aspects, you know, one really silly, one really kind of creepy. But he's definitely outclassed by Superman. There's no question he really should be in a different rogues gallery. Well, with the New 52 and with Arrow, you guys were talking about Arrow one time, and I called in about this. With Arrow, we're seeing Ra's al Ghul and Deadshot taking on Arrow, which are Batman villains. We've seen the prankster slide over from Superman to Nightwing. We've seen Hector Hammond jump from the Green Lantern universe to Superman. I was wondering, number one, if you guys like the Toyman at all, and if you do like the Toyman, which version do you like the best? And number two, would you bring him back in the New 52? How would you bring him back? And who do you think would be more fighting in his weight class? I was thinking that maybe you could put the Toyman up against Cyborg because of the whole mechanical man thing. You know, I mean, and I would love to see what the new Toyman's going to look like. Anyhow, happy late Thanksgiving again. And sorry about the connection, guys, and talk to you later.
Yeah, we have BBC America, so that's how I saw it. It was on BBC America. I actually considered, because they had it at a movie theater actually close by you, I considered seeing it in the movie theater. The one thing that I wish they had done with the movie theater version in England, they aired it the same day in the movie theater. I would have loved to have seen it that way, you know, to do and I think there were places in the United States that they aired it in the movie theater as well, you know, on the same day. I would have gone and done that in an instant. I wonder if, you know, ratings drives decisions like that. But there were places in the U.S. I know that showed it on the day of. You just had to live in near one of those places. That would have been the place to see it, was on the big screen myself. I loved every bit of the episode, though. And he's right, the Tom Baker part was a geek out. That would have been awesome in the theater to hear people clapping for that. I just would have loved to have seen that on the large screen. Because you see BBC America, right, Jim?
Well, actually, I hopped on a plane and I flew to England, and that's where I saw it.
I figured that's what you were.
Yeah, it was just I did a day trip, you know, just fly there, fly back. You know, that's how I roll. You know, that's that's how I do it. But,
even though you could have done the same thing in the U.S.
Exactly,
yeah,
but sometimes you just gotta, you know.
That's right. I get it.
But funny thing with Doctor Who, and I don't think I mentioned this when we were talking about it on the show.
Okay.
But I talk about a lot of the comics at work, and much to the chagrin of my coworkers, I try to curb it, but sometimes I do get excited. And I keep talking, you know, and the Doctor Who, I was talking about how we're doing the 50th and this and that. And I was really excited for it. And, you know, one of the guys I work with, he had this look on his face like, you're speaking English, but I don't understand a single word you're saying. And so I'm like, do you know who Doctor Who is? Do you know who the Doctor is? And he goes, Doctor Who, as in like Dr. Seuss? You know, Horton Hears a Who, and he was thinking the whole time I'm talking about a Dr. Seuss character, he had no idea who the Doctor was. So I was kind of chuckling that, you know.
You're universally known for your Dr. Seuss fandom too. Which
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's really fun. Actually, that I find more surprising than if you threw out a comic character. Only because, Doctor Who has a more wide range following these days, especially. Although, I guess you got to be a BBC America or I think Sci-Fi Channel.
Well, that's the thing, because this guy he's a sci-fi fan. Mm-hmm. He's a fan of comic book genre, because he's seen the X movies, he's seen the Avenger movies, Bat and Superman movies.
Really?
Any of he likes that kind of stuff. That's why I was surprised he didn't know who the Doctor was.
Star Trek, that type of stuff too?
Yeah, he's heavy sci-fi guy.
Wow.
It's the BBC. It's because of from originally from over in the pond and all that. That's why he didn't know who it was. Because you think about it with us. I know you and I both. It was the public television that used to run the old the British shows over here. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't watch for that stuff, if you didn't look for the British television, you would never really find out about the Doctor unless you were really, kind of going through it that way. But it's, so it was the whole English thing. And I went through and I found a lot of my coworkers had no idea who I was talking about when I said the Doctor.
That's
I had
crazy.
a couple who knew, and a couple who actually even, the Baker, the scarf guy, they're like, the one had the actual scarf, but they had the scarf because they thought it looked cool. Not because they were a Doctor Who fan, and then they later found out, oh, that's Doctor Who. Oh, okay.
Wow. Well, the Toyman thing. Who would you like to see him paired up against? Do you have a preference there? Any thoughts?
I like him Arrow. I think Green Arrow would be a good one for him to go up against. I do like the idea of Cyborg because it's the mechanical man versus the mechanical creatures, but I would think actually Cyborg would take them down a little bit easier. But you think about just, Toyman could possibly do some interference into Cyborg's existence, and he could really make life a little difficult for Cyborg because he is part mechanical. But part of me thinks that Green Arrow would be a really cool combat and a really cool, usage.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a point that, he's become kind of a diminished foil for Superman, but we haven't seen a new 52 version of him yet, have we? We saw Toy Master in Superman Batman, but we haven't seen Toy Man, have we?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, I mean, he's a character that could be New 52 spruced up and, make him a little bit more deadly. We've seen that happen with, like, Batman's rogues in particular in recent years, and Flash's rogues. Although Flash's rogues kind of never really lost that part of themselves. I don't know. I'd like to just see where it all goes.
Yeah, I'd like a creepier, Toyman, personally. Because it kind of plays off to the creepy weirdo type of evil guy with toys, and it enters just really nasty thoughts in your head, and you start thinking, okay, this is a real evil person. Because just when you add the creepy and sinisterness with the toys that's usually associated with little children, it takes your mind to a place where you don't really need to see the story, but it actually it adds to the story. It adds to the fear level and the creepiness of the character.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I don't know that I have a real preference on where I'd like to see him. I just love to see a way to do a modern take on him.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would love for the character, because I think he's an interesting character. And I don't know how I would do that. I just love a creative writer to just have kind of some fun with it and really enjoy the concept and make him deadly again.
Oh, yeah. Definitely want deadly.
Hey, Sean and Jim, it's Jack from Michigan. Just calling to see what y'all thought of Year Zero so far. I've really enjoyed myself, and the fact that they've really done a much grander scope than actually Year One. Year One was much more of a personal take on the origin of the Batman and Bruce Wayne, cheer into the Batman and everything, and Jim Gordon. It's supposed to feel added to it in the reintroduction of certain very classic Batman villain in this past month's issue, issue 25, I believe. To also check and see what y'all also think of Daredevil getting relaunched in March next year, new number 1. I guess he's going to end up in San Francisco somehow. Thanks very much for y'all's great podcast. Bye.
The whole Batman 0 Year storyline, I'm loving. And I don't know how you feel. We actually probably should talk about this. The single issues, in other titles like Batgirl and stuff like that, Flash had a recent tie-in with it, in Action Comics. I'm really liking those. And I think one of the reasons why they can do that is because of the fact that part of DC's history is kind of an open, like, blank slate, where they can kind of tell you where some of these characters were during all of this. I like that kind of experience. It's great to kind of see where our other favorites that just happen to be intersecting with this storyline were. I've been quite enjoying that. The main story itself, though, I think is absolutely fabulous, and I've liked the supporting material. But where are you at?
Oh, I'm nodding my head in agreement with you, and especially with the Superman tie-ins and connections, and just the fact that Clark and Bruce have a longer history than just that meeting up and that first dealings with when they fought off Darkseid, and just that that was those moments that were the birth of the Justice League. There was something beyond just that first meeting. And I liked seeing that there's other connections, and as well as just these backstories of these other heroes. When the universe was rebooted, they said, we're going to tell the stories. We're going to tell backstories within the story. We're not just going to start, retelling stories and redoing origins right at point 1. We're jumping right into it. And we both really liked that. And that was something that I thought was really great about the relaunch, about the reboot that, can go through. So I'm definitely enjoying this. And I think, again, this was one of those, all the creative teams are kind of working on, they're firing on all cylinders, and you can see they're working. I get this feeling once again that they're all sitting around the bullpen throwing out ideas and just, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, try this. And granted, it doesn't actually happen that way, but in my head, I can kind of I get that feeling from it when I start seeing this stuff that pass over the entire DC universe. I get that feeling. I get that, yeah, this is cool, man. This is the DCU.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm really enjoying as well. I like the kind of sense that these characters were having lives while this was happening, and that's the part I really liked. I liked the. Did you read Flash yet?
No, I haven't yet.
Yeah, there's. I'm not going to spoil any of that, but there was a meeting between two characters in that I thought was really well handled for that particular book, and I loved. You read Action Comics? I'm assuming.
Oh yeah.
With the Lana Lang issue, I thought
yes.
That was really cool. So I mean, that kind of stuff I've been really digging. And Batgirl, did you get a chance to catch that one yet?
The
year 1 issue there?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, that was a fill-in writer, but I really enjoyed that take on Batgirl from the past too. It was a really good story. So I won't say anything about that one as well. But good issues so far. I'm really, really digging those. Coming back to who's talking about Daredevil, I don't believe you're reading that, am I right?
No, I'm not reading that.
Yeah, Daredevil is going to be relaunching it, and they seem to there's a few Marvel titles, like Wolverine and the X-Men are going to be relaunching and stuff like that. I think creative changes are driving that, story changes are driving that. I've been very happy. Actually, I'll throw both of the books I just referenced out there. They're 2 books that I'm reading and enjoying from Marvel a great deal. So I like whatever they're doing as long as the quality stays where it is right now. And my enjoyment, I don't care what issue number it is. I mean, if it's 1 or anything, I hope it's exciting, whatever they do, and continues to deliver the kind of enjoyment that I'm digging from those books. So I'm into that. I think comic companies, they do anything they can, and rightfully so. That's probably the business side of it. But also there's a creative reason. In this case, when there's creative changes, you kind of make those choices as well. There's multiple reasons why they're doing certain things that they're doing over at Marvel with those books. And I don't know. I'm enjoying a great deal of the product they're putting out. So on the titles that I'm reading, I'm not reading everything, but the ones that I'm reading, I'm greatly enjoying. So I think that's kind of cool, and I just hope the book continues to deliver. Daredevil's a really cool character, and I've loved Daredevil for a long time. The Frank Miller Born Again storyline was really the one that got me hooked into that character, and I've really enjoyed him ever since. And I really love to see what's going on with Daredevil anytime I get an opportunity. And the book right now has been really fantastic. So I just hope that continues.
Yeah, I always liked the character and the concept. I've never really actively read Daredevil, but it was one of those, when I was reading Marvel titles, I kind of followed what was kind of going on with him, but he was never just, I always had my my limited selection that I could go with. And I don't know, him moving out to West Coast, I think would be probably pretty good for the title, good for the character, and kind of mix stuff up. There's already plenty of people in New York. They could afford to lose one and try San Francisco, a new city, new taste, new view. Who knows? Maybe you can, do something different on that coast that you can't do on the East Coast.
Yeah. So I'm really quite enjoying that, and I don't know. I'd love to see what happens with the character, why he's moving, and what that means for him. So that's cool.
Hey, Sean and Jim, it's Adam Miller. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Wonder Woman being cast in the Batman Superman movie. I think it'll be nice to finally see Wonder Woman on the big screen. I think Gal Gadot is a good choice. A lot of people haven't given her flack, but I think she's gonna be a good Wonder Woman. I think Zack Snyder's gonna, and his stunt team is gonna bulk her up. But I'm looking forward to it, so I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Okay, guys, see you.
Do you give casting a lot of flack? I mean, are there times, I don't know how much, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, so please don't think I'm setting you up with a loaded question. I'm asking you, genuinely. With casting in most movies, and I'm talking about with franchises that are important to you, Jim, does casting bother you? Do you, sit there and really dwell on it a lot? I mean, you might have some reaction to it, but how does that work for you?
For me, it depends on the creative team in the writing and director.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a writer and director that I trust, then they could have casted anybody for that role, and I would have trusted them. Now, I say anybody, there is limits on it. If they really went off the beaten path and completely deviated from what I thought Wonder Woman should look like, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? At most, I sometimes get nervous when I know, okay, but I trust these people. I know they can do, they do right by, they did right by me in the first movie. They're going to do right by me in the second movie, and I've got confidence in them. Then when I wasn't really familiar with her, so I started doing a little research on her, started looking like, okay, yeah, I could see she looks like she could physically throw down. She looks good, because Wonder Woman has to be two things. She's got to be good looking, but she's got to be a warrior. She's got to be believable that she could, put a hurt on somebody. You have to have that edge, and the actress has that edge, but she's not a beast. She still has that feminine, very, attractive, very style, but she can throw down. And she's got that nice blending. And that's a difficult combination to have in a female a lot of times. Like, you and I are both wrestling fans, and there have been a lot of female wrestlers who were physical, who did these great matches that, I can remember us hooping and hollering and high-fiving for, because it had some great action, but they're also very good looking. So it's, you need that combination. You need that nice blend of physical and beauty.
Do you know the actress?
I've never really seen her work. I've only seen since she was cast.
Okay.
That I've started pulling up some stuff, seeing some of the stuff she's been in. She was in some of the Fast and Furious movies, and I've saw the movies, but I don't really remember her in it. So it's one of those things where I was like, I know I've seen a movie with her in it, but I don't completely recall her performance.
I've seen all those, and I really, I'm just not connecting the actress's name with it. I actually see which one she was in, what character she played that, because that would be my connection to knowing the character, to knowing her. But honestly, the females that are typically in those movies, the ones that stand out for me, are very strong female characters. Yeah. So I actually that encourages me. I'm excited for that. I'm surprised he didn't mention the casting for the Plastic Man movie. Because they started looking at things like, some of the other DC properties, like Plastic Man, Suicide Squad, and stuff, which they haven't announced any casting for Suicide Squad. But I know that they announced some other casting possibilities for Man of Steel, like there might be a Doomsday and stuff in Man of Steel. But did you hear about the Plastic Man movie?
Well, I didn't hear about the Plastic Man movie at all.
With Rob Schneider? I don't know how you feel about that.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Are you serious? Or are you joking with me?
I'm totally serious.
I don't know sometimes.
No, because of the look. I mean, it's at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but he's got the right look for it. But how do you think he will pull off that role?
That's a tough one because you run the risk of it being too goofy.
Because there's been an outrage about it. So I mean, where do you fall?
I'm not going to say I'm outraged. This is one I am concerned about and curious about. Now, Snyder had a movie called Big Stan, where he played a rich broker who I think did insider trading and ended up going to prison. But before he goes to prison, he gets tough and he studies with David Carradine and learns how to fight. And it's kind of funny seeing that character, that actor, plays somebody who can actually throw down. And he basically takes over the prison as the top dog of the prison to prevent himself from being assaulted in other ways. And it's kind of, seeing him do that, completely shift away from being the goofy comedy to, it was still a funny movie, but there was some, fight sequences, there was some, kind of character development, there was some interesting moments of there was a little bit of a wit to it, there was some funny, but there was some physical moments to it. So having seen that movie, I can kind of see him in the role. But again, it's going to come up to Plastic Man's a character that if the writers take it too extreme, too goofy, they could lose it.
David Goyer is writing it.
David Goyer is writing it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm now very comfortable. Well, I won't say very comfortable, but I'm more comfortable hearing that because he's a good writer.
So if they actually make that movie, you'd be happy.
Oh, okay, so you're
yeah. I want to see how long you justify it.
I don't know. That's why I first asked you. Are you serious? Because I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, really? But as I said, that movie Big Stan, and actually, I'll recommend that movie Big Stan to people if you want to watch it. It is a kind of a funny movie, and as I said, it has some moments in it that there's comical action, but it's not the goofy standard slapstick that he normally has.
I almost came back after this. Dude, I hate the casting. I want to see what you do.
Well, if you had done that, then I would have known it was bogus.
Well, that's why I did. I'm like, I want to be careful how I push this because I want to see where it goes. But
now, we know about the possible Doomsday, but they also said he might be Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there was rumors that Doomsday is supposed to be in the film. I guess that's where the Doomsday thing came from. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see that actor play anybody. Yeah.
Because I loved him in Game of Thrones and Conan. He did a great job. I think I could see him playing. I could see him being Martian Manhunter. I could see him doing Doomsday. But the problem with him doing Doomsday is that you don't really have lengthy dialogue, and you don't have. It's the physical beatdown. And if they're going to do Doomsday, I would assume they're going to do more CGI. So really, whoever character is inside the CGI, you won't get as much of the dynamic from that actor. So I'm hoping that he's not Doomsday, but he is. But he's a Martian Manhunter because I like him as an actor. I think he's again he brings a presence to him that he could pull it off nicely.
I could see him being Aquaman too if you change the hair color.
Oh yeah. And actually, I don't need to change the hair color for me. I say
no. I would be fine with that too. But I'm just saying with the presence.
Yeah.
Just taking off issue number 25. Yeah. You take that actor, plug him into that role. I could see him playing Aquaman.
Oh, definitely. He has that. Well, he's got the Warrior King presence to him. He
Absolutely
does that nicely. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, when
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that up until this conversation, but as you were kind of talking through, like wanting him to have a verbal role or things like that, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, ooh, wow. You think back to Game of Thrones, I could see him being an awesome Aquaman. I don't know. I really, I'm very interested in this film and what they're going to do with it. And I guess there's rumors about a Flash cameo, with it being the Barry Allen that we're seeing on Arrow.
Ooh, that'd be nice. That'd be a nice tie-in connection. I want that.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much of this stuff is rumor and how much it's true. So I always put a caveat on that. But I would love to see that if that happens. So that stuff, take with a grain of salt. But as far as the casting goes for Wonder Woman, I don't know. I think, it's the writing I'm very into. I am very into hearing any kind of news. I'm glad there's a Wonder Woman out there. I want her to succeed, and I guess that's the point why I went to this. I am not walking into any of these films like, the casting grunt, because I guess I've gotten to the point with superhero movies, we've seen so many good ones where at first things made you go, they're doing that, and it wound up being a great movie, that I'm hoping that the casting makes sense. I'm into the whole Ben Affleck idea. I'm not one of the naysayers that, I've never felt that way. Obviously I wanted Christian Bale, but it makes sense for this movie to do a new Batman, and I'm cool with that. Let's start the new Batman franchise again. I hope that, Ben Affleck does such a great job that people are demanding, knocking over buildings to see a new Batman movie. I want him to be that good. I want to enjoy it that much, that I want to look at him that way. And I'm hoping that she does such a great job on Wonder Woman that we want to see a terrific Wonder Woman movie with her in it. So that's the kind of stuff more I'm into than worrying about being negative about the casting, if that makes sense. I want it in the film to make me a believer. I thought Man of Steel did that for me. I remember first seeing the suit and being kind of like, ooh, I don't know how I feel. And then as more and more information was released, I got more and more excited for this movie. And then when I saw the film, I was just really knocked off my socks. Knocked out of my socks in that one. I was like, what a great, great movie. Knocked off my socks. Well, maybe it did. That's why the people were moving quickly away from me. It wasn't my goofy Superman fandom. But no, I really loved the movie. And I have a lot of faith in the sequel because the first one was so good. That does influence me a lot. I guess in the sequel, I get less worried about the casting because the first one was so good.
Yeah, if the first one had been, I would be worried. But we had this creative team put forth a really solid, a really cool story that I'm like, all right, this was a good story for me. I enjoyed it. Let's continue the ride.
Is there a character that you want to see in it that hasn't been announced? Or like the villains so far, the rumors are Metallo as a possibility, Lex Luthor as a possibility. Now we're hearing Doomsday rumors as possibilities. Forgetting whether it's hero or villain, is there a character that you have a dream character where I'd really like to see this character? Especially now that you've heard more announcements. I wonder if does that change for you?
Well, we talked briefly. I'd like to see the Arrow TV show, that Green Arrow in this. I'd like to see that Flash in there. I think a connection and a tie-in between the movie and the show would be awesome. I'm getting Wonder Woman. I'm glad to see that. I did want to see the three. If we're going to start pulling in characters, I'd like to see them pull in Green Lantern. Because the movie, when the Ryan Reynolds movie didn't do so hot, and a lot of people had issues with it, and yada yada. And I think if they pull in the character, into this universe, maybe we could relaunch and resurrect the Green Lantern universe. Because I think the Green Lantern universe is a great story. It's a great canvas for some really cool stories, and I think. You take Green Lantern, you put him off planet, You have him doing something out in space, you know, the intergalactic police cop, you know, and just that whole concept of the core and just everything they go with that. They could really tell some neat stories, and I'd like to see that. So I think I'm going to put it at my top of my list. I'd like to see them bring in Green Lantern just to resurrect that universe.
I'd like to see this maybe. I guess I might be being a little conservative with this. Obviously, I'd like this Man of Steel movie to be one that would then lead to a third Man of Steel movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But my wish list would also, I'd like to see this launch a Wonder Woman franchise. I'd like to see this then launch Justice League, where we see some of the characters you're mentioning, and maybe they launch out of the Justice League film. Because you'll have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Assuming there's going to be a cameo or two in this film of other characters. Flash, you know, from particular.
Yeah.
You know, you've got enough of the Justice League being established in this that you can introduce the other characters in the Justice League film, and I would be perfectly fine with that. That's not to say that I wouldn't want more cameos, but it's only so much you need to do in a Superman movie with it. I'd like to see another Superman movie, maybe another Batman. You know, maybe this would lead to another Batman movie before or after Justice League. I don't know, but that's kind of my wish list of films right now. I'm getting a Flash TV show. I've got Green Arrow TV show. I want to see those keep going, and I would love it if they are part of this larger universe. I don't need a whole lot of connectivity in those TV shows as far as constant references to the Justice. I just don't. A quick little reference here and there is fine. I like them being a part of their own little series, you know? But I would love, like, the wink and the nod being in the film that they're a part of this world is perfect for me. Like, I want that. I think that would be really neat to see that our TV world. But I think there comes a point where you're trying to do too much. I would rather the focus be on a terrific Wonder Woman movie, you know, launch that into a franchise. A terrific Justice League movie. Continue the Superman franchise that's going so well. Give us another Batman movie. Then, after, you know, the Justice League film, take the breakout character or characters from that, launch them into a well-produced franchise. Do another Justice League film. Maybe somebody breaks out of that into another franchise. I think you got to do it. As a fan, I want them to hit me with all of it at once. Sure, that would be great if it was all awesome. But I think if you're a little bit more conservative about it and do each one well, you have the opportunity to really develop some franchises that people care about and they want to watch over. I want all of these films to be ones that I want to watch over and over again. I don't want the one to go, that was okay. I don't want those. I would rather wait a little bit, have them launched in ways that make sense with a really strong focus on quality. So I guess I want quantity, but I want the quality first. And I want there to be a number of the films. I don't want just one movie. I want like a number of movies to come out of there, but I don't need 27 movies.
I need 52 movies.
We got Justice League Dark coming and stuff like that too. You know, which, you know, those are
now I'm going to question everything you say that I haven't read
that really is. That really is.
Oh, okay.
That's the Guillermo del Toro movie that was rumored. That is, I swear to you, that's a legit one. I haven't heard much more about it, but Guillermo del Toro, excuse me for name butchery there, doing that film has me excited. So I would like to see that movie. That's legit. There is no casting rumors or anything like that with it, other than this has been a rumored thing for some time. That I don't know if it's even fair to call that a rumor. It's more than a rumor, but that's something I'd like to see. It was a good call. That was the Wonder Woman bit. That's something that for me that doesn't bother me at all. I'm glad they cast a Wonder Woman and that we know that that's who it's going to be, because we're getting Wonder Woman on the big screen.
Yeah. Now here's my question for you: casting of her mother. I'm always going to go with Linda Carter. I think that'd be wonderful. That'd be a great nod, but.
I don't know that I necessarily need it in this movie. To me, this is a Batman Superman film, and I hope that stays.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm talking like when hopefully she gets a nice spin-off, she gets her own story, and everything goes on there. I'm talking when they flesh out the Wonder Woman story.
I would love her to be the mother. I don't have any issue with that at all. Linda Carter has aged very gracefully. I mean, she's still an amazingly beautiful woman, and there's something about her. I think she would be a majestic-looking queen. If they go another route with it, that's cool. If they go more of a New 52 route with it, and we don't see as much of the Amazon, I'm fine with that as well. I don't know. I don't really have a preference there. Other than when you're saying that, I'm like nodding my head, going, "Yeah, no, you're right. I think she would look great in the role." And I think that nod to the past of the character would be really great. I think it would bring in some longtime fans of the old TV show and stuff like that as well. That I don't know. I think she's a good enough actress that it would be an interesting placement. So I don't know. I'm cool on that. Yeah, I haven't really thought about her film that much, other than that I hope this leads to one. And that it's a well-produced script.
Right.
And they don't spend all their time worrying about pants, not pants. No, I just think you get too bogged down in it. I've got the Injustice game, and she's got the version of that new 52 outfit that she was going to have, and it looks great. I don't care which version of the outfit she gets. I really don't. The film has to support the character, not the outfit.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff I want to see from it. That's just my take.
Holy caffeine!
Jim, I want to quickly shout out our Facebook group, our show voicemail line, our webpage, ragingbullets.com. Our show voicemail line, it's on Skype. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. We love having you part of the show, so please feel free to call in any time with any of your thoughts on comics that we're talking about on the show, but also comics that maybe we haven't gotten to in a while ago. We love having your opinions on the podcast. Speaking of the show voicemail line, we also have a great website, ragingbullets.com. This is where I put news on what the status is of show episodes, let you know when we're recording, what kind of topics we're going to be talking about, and also, as I'm editing the show, what the status is on the release of the episode so you can stay up to date. I have that linked to our show Twitter account. We have an amazing Facebook group made up of diehard listeners of the show, casual fans of the show, and even people who don't listen to the show, but they're just comic fans that have joined the group because of recommendations from friends, and they're part of a great community. There's bloggers, creators, there's all kinds of different people who hang out in our Facebook group, and I just want to thank that amazing community just for keeping that going, because I really find it to be one of the first stops I go to now to find out news. People post stuff up all the time on cool things that are happening in all kinds of media relating to comics, and it's just a great spot to be. So check out our Facebook group. We're on Google Plus as well. We have a regular Facebook page besides the group, and we'd love having you a part of any of that social media. So thanks for supporting that. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I want to remind everyone that DCBService.com is a digital partner. If you have a Comixology account, an iVerse Media Diamond Digital account, or a My Digital Comics account, if you link them, 5% of those purchases, doesn't cost you anything more, goes towards your DCB service order. They're also doing a December 2013 Vertigo bundle. This includes The Royals Masters of War 1, Sandman Overture No. 2, Dead Boy Detectives No. 3, Coffin Hill 5, Hinterkind 5, Astro City No. 9, Trillium No. 7, The Unwritten Volume 2, Apocalypse No. 2. $26.92 regularly, 50% off, only $13.46. Over at InStockTrades.com, the DC New 52 Villains Omnibus Hardcover. This collects the Villains Month, and this is an 1,184-page book that collects really every title that was released that month. So if you haven't had a chance to pick that up, or you didn't pick up Villains Month or didn't pick up certain issues of Villains Month, and this is your way that you would like to digest all of that, it's a $150 book, 50% off, only $75. This, to me, is a worthy omnibus because of the fact that the issues were very contained. So being able to read those in this kind of sitting, to me, just seems like a great way to handle that book. And remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping from InStockTrades.com. I want to thank both DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Jim, next week, we have a number of books that we might want to talk about. We'll have to make a plan for next week, so we're going to have to be a little vague on that, other than saying that we're going to talk some great comics, and we will see you then.
Bye!
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. swinging your mace around. Such a practical outlook, helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up.